A laughing gas bomb, Shadow explained. Be careful. Boom! Suddenly, the bomb exploded all by itself, filling the room with gas. The bomb exploded all by itself, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next installment of Cringy Stories I Wrote When I Was Young, a series in which I dig up some of the stories that I penned as an inexperienced middle schooler and embarrass myself by reading them for YouTube. This particular story I discovered while I was digging through some of my old drawings and stories that I keep in a box under my bed. I was very prolific when I was young. I'd write and draw on pretty much any piece of scrap paper that I could get my hands on. Now, this one was typed. And it was actually typed in a software that I have since uninstalled by accident. So I'm very grateful that I printed it out a long time ago, because if I hadn't, then this story would have been permanently lost to history. Oh, it looks like this was created, the date of creation is indicated right here in this document. It was created at exactly 2:58 p.m. on September 17th, 2012. So that I would have been 10. So a little context before we begin. When my sister and I were young, we fancied ourselves superheroes, and we basically appropriated the entire DC universe for our little adventures. We actually considered ourselves apprentices of Batman, and the aliases that we adopted were Shadow and Hawk. My sister was Shadow, and I was Hawk. So this was basically my first exercise in fanfiction, which to my mind makes it a perfectly worthy addition to the Cringy Childhood Stories series. So with that, let's jump right in. Shadow and Hawk, Book 1, Mischief in the Mansion. I don't believe I finished any other stories in this universe, so Book 1 was kind of jumping the gun. The pitch-black mansion loomed over me, but I had a night vision option programmed into my technical contact lenses, TCLS. A high-up chandelier hung by just a string. Thick streaks of paint and torn wallpaper covered the walls. I knew this was dangerous. If you think a supervillain probably built this desolate wasteland, you'd be correct. But it is much more precise to say this former factory made a supervillain. If you've heard the story, Jared Miles was battling with a mysterious bat-like hero, gee, I wonder who, then decided to be a supervillain when he fell into an immense pot of toxic waste that turned his face white on this very spot. I glanced beneath my feet. A large splotch of dried toxic waste was smeared across the surface. I'm pretty sure that Joker's real name being Jared Miles isn't canon, but I'm just going to let that slide. I shoehorned several of my own ideas into this universe, so that's just something that you hardcore Batman fans are going to have to deal with. A large splotch of dried toxic waste was smeared across the surface. The spot of waste didn't surprise me, as there were many smaller spots of the same toxic waste splotted all over the floor, and a bit on the walls. I wasn't sure wherever the villain could be. A slick silhouette slipped onto a high window in the large castle, as there were many, not set evenly and in order on each floor, but spread across the walls in no pattern, as if someone had just closed their eyes and pointed randomly to places to have the windows built. I know this crook. The silhouette leaped stealthily off of the windowsill, obviously I meant off, spreading its arms out only to reveal a wingspan attached under its arms. The wings slowed down at the silhouette's fall, cushioning its landing. I suddenly recognized the silhouette. Stepping toward her, I held out a ball. I then lit a match and touched the flame to the ball, creating a fireball. Since who I think this silhouette is has a special chemical in her suit that allows her hands to resist heat, I'll throw this fireball into her hands, I thought. If she doesn't catch it easily, or she does, but burns her hands, I'll know it isn't her. To prevent my suit's glove from catching on fire, I quickly tossed the fireball at her. Catch, I said, half firmly, half playfully. She easily caught the fireball in her hand. She easily caught it in her hand. No panic, no pain, no pulling her hand away suddenly and sucking her thumb while crashing in a heap on the floor. She just caught it. I smiled. It was my sister Shadow, all right. Shadow stepped out of the shadows, of which she had ironically been in the whole time, into the moonlight shining through one of the windows. Good evening, Hawk, I don't see how that's ironic. It's actually quite appropriate that Shadow would be standing in the shadows. The irony would actually be her standing in the light, so, yeah, you find anything? I asked. She easily blew out the flame of the fireball, and held up another small ball that looked a lot like the fireball, except for the fire part. I looked closely. An evil, happy white Joker face was printed on it. A bomb? I suggested. A laughing gas bomb, Shadow explained. Be careful. Boom! Suddenly the bomb exploded all by itself, filling the room with gas. The bomb exploded all by itself, huh? They grow up so fast. And on the first page here, we have an illustration of Shadow stepping out of the shadows while I stand and watch. There appears to be some kind of formation in the background. Not sure what I was trying to represent there. It kind of looks like a tree, but it's very indistinct. And, yeah, that's the long and short of my artistic talent at the age of 10. Regulators, I yelled, reaching for my utility belt. Shadow snapped on a small mouth-covering mask that resisted laughing gas over her face. I started to do the same, but it was too late. Ha 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 ha! I shouted, falling backwards onto my back. My regulator fell to the ground, as I had dropped it before I put it on completely. Alright, a little explanation here would be prudent. Regulators are basically just a fancy name for gas masks in this story. So that's what that's all about. Crash! Ha ha ha! I couldn't stop laughing. Most people are unconscious when they are sprayed with this chemical, but I've gone through special training to stay awake. Though, as everyone is like when their body is filled with this fume, I couldn't help but laugh. I couldn't stop. I wanted to, but I couldn't. It felt like I could hardly breathe, yet it also felt like my heart was racing away. I felt like I had 4 of them. I was running out of breath. My eyes turned from wide open to a squint. My heart beat like a drum. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I could hear my heart thump as I felt my face morph into that of a Joker. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. My heart's pulse became slower and slower until silence. No thumps. No beats. But I still felt alive. I knew I was. The gas cleared away from the air by now, but I was still laughing. Ha 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 ha! Not me that time. I didn't laugh like that. It must be the criminal. I snatched a small notepad from a hidden place under the buckle of my belt. Out of the same hidden department, I grabbed a miniature pencil and scribbled a small note on the top page, all the while chuckling uncontrollably. Get your little white gloves off of me, I heard Shadow order, flipping the white-faced criminal over her back. Ha ha ha! Time to take away your toys, Shady, you naughty girl. The crook funnily snapped, ripping off her chest strap full of gadgets and bombs. No, I felt like saying, but all that came out of me was a huff, considering the gas was forcing me to laugh so hard. Ha 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 ha! I heard the villain rumble, racing Shadow out of the room. I ripped off the top page of the notepad, trying to throw it to Shadow at the last second, but no. It just fluttered to the ground in front of me. I tried to move, but my laughing stopped me. I would put on my regulator, for it was lying right in front of me, but it would be of no use. It was broken. I couldn't get up. I just rolled back and forth, holding my stomach in laugh riot mode. Wait. I suddenly stopped rolling around and looked toward the door that led out of the room. Lying beside it was Shadow's chest strap. I was still laughing, so I couldn't walk, but I had an idea. I can roll over to the chest strap. I knew there were a bunch of working regulators in there. While snickering, I rolled around across the floor, slowly inching toward the chest strap. When I finally reached it, I stretched out my hand to grab a regulator. Ha ha! I snapped on a regulator device, feeling some breathing through my mouth. The breaths were becoming more and more even. My face moved out of its uncomfortable Joker face position. Going back to normal felt better than ice cream. Alright, here is me lying prostrate on the ground. Sorry, it's not prostrate. Prostrate is like this, like where your face is facing the ground. This is actually a supine position, I believe. Yes, for those of you who don't know, the supine position is where you're lying on your back, and then where you're lying on your stomach is called the prone position. The more you know. Many of you probably know that. I only discovered it recently because I'm an idiot. But anyway, so that's me, and then Shadow and the Joker are having a little tussle in the background. I took off the mask thoughtfully and glared down at the chest strap. I could use this, I thought. I picked up the chest strap, surprised to find it was attached to a string. Just as I thought, uh-oh, this is probably a trap, I looked in front of me only to see what the other end of the string was attached to. The flap of a box. All that happened in just a moment, therefore it was too late. I had already pulled the string, picking up the chest strap. The string yanked the flap of the box open, revealing a bowling ball that rolled out of the box, which was lying on its side. A bowling ball? I thought. This is gonna be really weird. It was. I looked toward where the ball was rolling. A hook? Hanging in the air by a string? A string? Before I could look up to where the string led, the second part of the trap was already starting to happen. As the bowling ball continued rolling toward the hook on the string, one of the finger holes in the bowling ball caught the hook. Still rolling, the bowling ball pulled at the string. That is when I found out that the string was attached to a pulley. The pulley started moving, causing another part of the lengthy string to begin rising. Okay. Tied to that part of the string was a large bucket. Hanging out of that bucket was a giant hammer. You're telling me the Joker built this whole freaking trap in the last, like, what? How long were you on the ground? It doesn't seem to have been that long. 5 minutes even seems like a stretch, given the, like, pace of this narrative. So, I don't know. Behind the bucket and hammer was a giant, old, wooden, cracked bookshelf. The hammer flipped over out of the bucket onto the bottom shelf as the bucket continued going up the pulley. The hammer hung over the edge of the bottom shelf as the bucket finally stopped rising and hit a board hanging over the top shelf. Okay. On that board was a knife standing upward. The bucket shook the board, hitting it, and the knife fell over and, snap, cut the string. The bucket, no longer attached to the string, fell down onto the large hammer hanging out on the bottom shelf, flipping it over and sending it hurling straight toward me.